Hello and welcome to another video. So are you somebody who sometimes feels that the music that you make doesn't really fit in with, with everything else? Perhaps that you're making something really interesting or really cool, but it just doesn't really have a place, and that other people don't really get what you're doing. Outside maybe just a few people. If that is the case, then this video is for you. And what I want to talk about today is the concept of the outsider. But before we do that, I would just like to thank you for tuning in, and of course invite you to hit the subscribe button. If you watch these videos regularly and you're not subscribed, then please hit the subscribe button, because it does make a difference to the channel and it lets me know that that people are enjoying the videos out there. And if this is your first time tuning in to one of my videos, then thank you very much for clicking on the thumbnail, and perhaps you might also consider hitting the subscribe button as well, and then you'll be able to see more of these videos, hopefully. Well, that's the plan anyway. So anyway, back to it. So recently I have just been sort of reading. I haven't finished reading it yet, but I started reading this book recently, The Outsider by Colin Wilson. So you might have come across this book, originally published in 1956, and the sort of subtitle on the front cover says "The Classic Study of Alienation, Creativity and the Modern Mind." Quite a bold statement there. So I'd actually, for some reason, I don't know why, deep in the YouTube algorithm, I came across a video about this book, and I thought, it's quite interesting. I'll have to pick that up at some point, and then kind of forgot about it. And then randomly was just kind of, there was a craft fair on here locally that I'd wandered down to one Sunday morning, and there was a stall selling second-hand books, and this was just sort of sat there right on the top of a pile of books. And I thought, oh, that's that book from that video, and it was £1.20 or something like that. And I thought, well, I'll pick that up and give it a read. Bit of a coincidence, really, but anyway, that's often how these things happen, isn't it? So what is the book about? Well, it's written by this guy Colin Wilson, which you may or may not have heard of, and as I say, it was published in 1956. So he writes about this concept of the outsider, which I don't know whether he originates that term. I think he might do. I don't know. The outsider. So these are people throughout history who are highly creative, but have this kind of sense of being alienated from society. And he does kind of like what do you call it? He sort of analyzes various of these people, which includes who does he talk about? I did write them down: Dostoevsky, Franz Kafka, Hermann Hesse, T.S. Eliot, Van Gogh or Van Gogh, however you like to pronounce that. So these are people that are extremely well known, highly creative people, influential people, but were themselves maybe sitting on the outside or on the fringes of society. I mean, I think especially Van Gogh was, did he sort of die penniless, and it wasn't until after his death that he was really kind of hailed as a great artist. But he had his vision that he kept to, and created all that work throughout his lifetime. So yeah, so these are people who are kind of, and this is how Colin Wilson categorizes them. They are sort of feel alienated from society, but they have this kind of deep connection and ability to sort of feel more or sense more about reality, or have ideas about reality than most people, I guess. So people who maybe like feel too much or see too much, and don't necessarily want to accept the sort of shallow surface of life, the mundane existence, but want something more meaningful. And this is perhaps what drives them towards whatever creative pursuits, whether that's writing or art or music or philosophy or whatnot. And what Wilson also kind of argues in this book is that these people are kind of essential or crucial to society, because they sort of push us forward, push the human race forward. And I guess, if you think of the sorts of people that we really need in the world, it is people that are going to, come up with new medicines, new technologies, new ways of doing things, new ideas, new art. And these are the kind of people that likely, will do that. And so I think, as somebody who is into modular synth and what we might say is obscure music, perhaps, there's definitely a connection here between the idea of sort of being a modular synth artist and this idea of being an outsider. And I think if I look back on my life growing up and so on, that's definitely something that I can see a connection with, or draw some parallel to. If I think as a young teen learning to play the guitar and wanting to be in bands, I was not a popular kid at school. I was not into all the other things that the popular kids were into, the type of music that they liked. I was into this noisy, heavy guitar music. I just wanted to play guitar all the time. So, other kids might be out in the street playing football. I would be at home practicing guitar, or there'd probably be like one or two of us friends that would be around each other's houses jamming or whatnot. But we were definitely in the minority, so we were definitely kind of outsiders in that respect. And I think even growing up and getting older and then being in bands, the sorts of bands that I've been in have always been a little bit more making music that was a bit weirder, or again, not kind of like mainstream type stuff, that was just the same four chords as everybody else, singing about your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever. And then, eventually getting into modular synth, which is music that at times doesn't even sound like music, and you have to explain to somebody before they listen to it what they're going to hear, if they're not familiar with that type of music. And obviously modular synth, there's a lot you can do with modular, and it's a bit of a spectrum, isn't it? And there probably are music on one end which is very close to sort of EDM and commercial dance music, and music on the other end which is very much experimental kind of avant-garde stuff, and then you've got everything else in between. But even dance music, although there's a lot of very commercial dance music, EDM stuff, there's also dance music that pushes boundaries. And if you think of how dance music probably has come about in the first place, it certainly wasn't through any kind of, embracing the norm. It was through pushing boundaries and trying to do something different and explore ideas. It's only as things become established over time that they start to sort of become repetitive and conform and become part of the mainstream. So I think that there are a lot of parallels between some of the ideas discussed in this book and this kind of feeling of being an outsider. And I guess it's something that we might experience, and I'd be interested how many of you out there kind of have this feeling as well, that perhaps there is a sense of alienation, that people don't necessarily understand what you're doing with your modular, and I'm thinking sort of friends and family here, that you have to kind of justify what you're doing sometimes, because they will come in and see you there plugging cables in turning knobs and things, and all that's coming out is a crazy noise, and it's like, what is this? What is this? Sometimes I get, I can get really, really into a patch, and if I'm doing that late at night, I will usually have my headphones on so as not to disturb everybody. And there have been occasions when my wife has come up the stairs and she's rushed into the room and gone, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you all right?" I could just hear this really heavy breathing. I thought you're having a heart attack or something. And it's because I'm sat there, I've got the headphones on and I'm tweaking something and I'm going, and it's like I'm so intensely into it that I don't know that I'm doing this kind of weird heavy breathing thing. And yeah, to somebody who that's all they can hear because they can't hear what's in my headphones, that I guess does seem a little bit strange at times. Anyway, that's that's nothing to do with this. Yes, so I've got off track now. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so this idea of the outsider then as being somebody who, I guess you've got no interest in, or very little interest in the norm, in the mainstream, and you want to do something that is different, and you want to seek something that is deeper than just that surface layer of reality or whatnot. And I'm sure that, when we sit down to start patching, we're not trying to come up with some kind of spiritual experience or whatnot, but there is kind of a meditative state that you get, I think, when you're patching for a long time. And that's probably the case even, for just playing a musical instrument, sitting down with the guitar or whatever, you can get lost in it. And I know definitely when I was doing that 30-day thing in January, over time, as I was every single night, I was coming and sitting in here on my own, quite late at night, usually sort of like 1 a.m. or whatever, and there's this kind of quiet in the world, and I kind of have this feeling of having this deeper connection with the music because there's nobody else around. The streets are empty, everyone's asleep, it's dark outside, there's just the occasional hoot of an owl or something, and it's just you and the music and nothing else. And it's kind of like a little sort of private space that you exist in. And I probably did have like little insights that came to me and ideas and things that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't have gone through that experience. So there is this kind of, I think there is a spiritual element to art and music when you get sort of deeply into it. And I guess this kind of links to questions about what is music and what is art and what is it for and that kind of thing. And that's a huge topic there. That's probably a whole series of videos, not just one video. But I think sometimes obviously on this there is this surface level that music is there to entertain people. It entertains the masses, and maybe it provides release for people or whatnot. But there's an awful lot of music that goes a lot deeper than that, and I guess it can sort of point out the cracks in society or culture, or it challenges what we believe, challenges the nature of what music even is, and often will be misunderstood. I definitely know that I can show my music to some people and it will be misunderstood because they're not musicians and they've not sort of I guess studied music in a way to be able to appreciate it, and so it's kind of lost on them, which is fine because not everybody has to be a musicologist or whatever. Yeah, do you find some sort of parallel with this, that there is this kind of feeling of, you know, this being an outsider and this alienation, but also you have this kind of deep connection to what you're doing, and you know, I guess, you know, it's sort of challenging boundaries, pushing boundaries, questioning what is beautiful, what is ugly, what is worthwhile, what is not worthwhile. Yeah, so let me know in the comments, you know. And I think Colin Wilson sort of, he believed that being an outsider wasn't necessarily like something to despair at, or to be depressing, or isolation that's going to lead to depression, but actually it's an opportunity for gaining more meaning in life, and to have, you know, breakthroughs and ideas and insight that most people will never experience. And so actually, you know, to be one of these people that perhaps is on the outside is quite a lucky thing, and perhaps we should be thankful if we are, you know, if we do feel some kind of resonance with that, you know, that role, or whatever you want to call it. You know, at the end of the day, if you are doing something and you are creating music that's different and you are pushing boundaries, then you're kind of, you know, you're creating a new musical language. You're keeping original creativity and original music alive in a time when there is an awful lot of repetition and a lot of shallow, meaningless music out there, and everything is kind of like metrics based, and, you know, it's all about the analytics and the data. And, you know, I think if you are, you know, if you are somebody who's doing something interesting, then you are part of a movement. You know, there is a community of people that exist, and now the way the world is, you know, with the internet and so on, it's much easier to be, you know, part of a community. And in that respect, we're kind of like a community of outsiders. So maybe not so outside anymore. But I think at the end of the day, it is, you know, modular synthesis or whatever it is that you do, it might be a niche, but it's these niches that kind of change the world and move things forward. So that's it. That's all I've got to say today. Bit of a rambling video. I do recommend, though, that you have a look at this book. Check it out if you're if you're not familiar with it. Obviously, it's you know, you can pick it up pretty cheap, probably from like second-hand bookstores or whatever. I don't really know much about Colin Wilson beyond this book. I know he did go on to write a lot of other books, and I think not all of those were as successful as this first book. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. So if you do kind of resonate with this idea of the outsider, then please do let me know in the comments below. And yeah, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and all that jazz, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, thank you for watching. Cheerio.